Okay, we want to welcome everyone to our webinar today. This is Webinar Wednesday, and the consortium has really enjoyed offering these webinars for our teachers and health science leaders and educators across the country. Looks like we've got people from all over sharing with us today. Just a couple of things to make you aware of. I will share this again in the chat box. It was the very first thing that we shared. And that is that you can ask for a certificate of attendance if you need that. And it's Nancy, you can email Nancy Allen, who's our director, and I'll post that again in the chat box. Our speakers today are going to have moments during the presentation where it will be a good time for questions and so forth. But if you have questions as we go along, you can go ahead and put them in there, and then we will try to answer those when they have those kind of question and answer periods. They certainly want to interact with y'all and are happy for you to ask questions. So we're really happy to have Danielle and Christina from Lead4Change with us today. Some of you may have heard of that organization. I think two of the things they're most known for is community service and, of course, leadership, which has kind of been their name. But really exciting. I really enjoyed looking over their website and all the different things they do, and I have heard great things about their organization. So we're just really happy to have them with us, and I'm going to let them do some more formal introductions and kind of tell us what they're going to talk about today. So welcome to everybody. Thanks for being with us. And like I said, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and we'll try to help you with those. Okay, ladies, thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Christina Culver, and I am an outreach consultant for the free student leadership program, Lead4Change. My colleague, Danielle Gadharf, and I are here today to walk you through this free program, and we are so excited to help you wrap your heads around what this might look like in your classroom. From our own teaching experience, we know how hard you are working to provide quality educational experiences, ones that are engaging, motivating, and ones that will help your students leave your classroom a little more ready for the real world. Now more than ever, we want to foster a sense of community for our students, but we also want them to turn their view outward, to look into their world. How can we foster a sense of citizenship, civic engagement, empathy, responsibility, accountability? How can we build strong communication skills, collaboration, trust, and other leadership skills? Those are tough questions, but Lead4Change is the answer, and we will show you how. Today, during our presentation, we will give you a brief overview of the Lead4Change Student Leadership Program. We will go over the Lead4Change Challenge. Danielle will walk you through the Lead4Change website, and she will also make connections between the Lead4Change lessons and the health science standards. So let's start with what is Lead4Change. Lead4Change is a student leadership program based on the leadership principles from the book, Taking People With You by David Novak. David Novak is the co-founder and former CEO of Yum Brands. Are you familiar with Yum Brands? Perhaps you have heard of Pizza Hut or Taco Bell or KFC. Those restaurants make up Yum Brands. The Novak Family Foundation, Lift a Life, fully funds Lead4Change so that all the lessons and resources are free for students and educators. Now let's look at the Lead4Change Student Leadership Program. Lead4Change is a leadership program where students can make big things happen in their communities. Lead4Change is a free program for 6th through 12th graders. The lessons take your students on a journey where they will self-reflect on who they are as leaders and what strengths they bring to their team. As a group, they will choose a cause near and dear to them that they would like to support. The team will then plan, execute, and reflect upon a service project that helps meet the identified need in their community. You can register on lead4change.org and have instant access to the lessons, resources, and much more. The materials are all there and ready for you to use in your classroom. One of the best parts of the lessons is that they can be included in any classroom or club setting and in any subject area, including health sciences. Lead4Change is not an extra thing to add to your already overflowing plate. It is a tool and a framework that can be applied to what you are doing right now in your classroom to help you meet your teaching goals. Additionally, since Lead4Change began in 2012, our lessons have worked in person and virtually. So no matter what your learning environment looks like today, Lead4Change is a great fit. Also, did I mention the lessons are student-led, and we encourage the students to take over their learning as they grow as leaders. This is an excellent time to give your students a purpose and the skills to be our newest leaders. Lead4Change is a proven resource for strengthening social emotional skills, a critical need for developing leaders. When they put their learning into action through their service project, they stay engaged and connected to each other and their community. So let me answer the 5 W's for you. Who, what, why, where, and when. Who uses this program? Any educator, teacher, counselor, club advisor, principal, and parent who works with students in grades 6 through 12. I will mention we are a US only program. What is it? As I've mentioned, this Lead4Change Student Leadership Program includes leadership lessons which teach individual and team skills, and then take students through a framework for building and implementing a successful service project. Everything can be done virtually, including the project. Students will work in teams, even virtually, and when they complete the lessons and project, you will have all the information you need to enter the Lead4Change Challenge. The why do this program? Well, all students who are a part of a challenge team will receive certificates of completion and are eligible for graduation honor cords. Like I mentioned before, the program is privately funded, so everything is free to educators and students. Educators can achieve their goals by using our alignment and integration guides, providing lesson by lesson alignment with every major educational standard in each core subject area, which Danielle will do for you later. Where is this program used? Lead4Change has educators participating in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. Our member community has more than 13,000 educators, and we have had more than 1.8 million students go through the program since 2012. When should you start? With lesson packages written in a 6-lesson and 12-lesson track, you can start anytime that works for you. Lessons are each divided into 3 activities so that you can move at your own pace. This is a terrific layout for virtual learning, as your student teams may work at different paces, and you can easily track their progress and their work. As I mentioned a little bit ago, students can enter their project to us through the Lead4Change Challenge. This is the chance for your students to share their hard work and leadership growth with us. The work for the challenge is built into the lessons, and students are prompted when they need to complete parts of their entry form. You, the educator, get the final sign-off on entries before they are turned in to us, and we have assessment tools to help. I will mention that the Lead4Change Challenge is optional, but we do encourage students to share their stories with us. We have 2 challenge entries every year, and this year the dates are February 12th and May 14th. After all that hard work, what can they get? When a team completes the program and enters their work in the Lead4Change Challenge, they receive certificates of completion and are eligible for graduation honor cords. Additionally, teams also become eligible to win up to $10,000 in grant money for their school or their community organization, with the hope that they continue this amazing work that they're doing. Many teams also receive local recognition, including media coverage. This might sound like a lot, but you are not alone. The Lead4Change outreach team is here to support you and your students through every step of the way. Once you register on our website, an outreach team member will connect with you to help you with anything that you need. So that is a lot of information that I just threw at you. Danielle is going to walk you through the key parts in our website so you can see what this looks like in action. But before she does that, I'm going to do a quick recap of what we just covered. Lead4Change is a free student leadership program for students in grades 6 through 12. Students can engage in the lessons in classroom settings, virtual settings, or in hybrid model classroom settings. Once registered, you, the educator, gain free access to all the lessons, resources, and more. The lessons provide a framework that can be applied to any content area and include creating a service project. The lessons end with a chance to share their hard work in our Lead4Change challenge, which could result in $10,000 in grant money for their school or charity. Before Danielle takes over, Phyllis, are there any questions we can answer from the chat or any questions that anyone watching would like to ask?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I don't have any questions yet. This sounds a lot like what they might do in some of their, like with projects they might even do in HOSA. So I imagine there's a way that they can that can kind of merge together similar projects, or one big project that they can work in and with their HOSA chapters that they can also use for this project as well. Have you seen that happen before?
Yes, HOSA is one of the associations that we work with, and oftentimes HOSA teams use our lessons and framework to complete the project that is required of HOSA, and then they can also submit it to us. So they get to submit it in both places. So yes, we definitely see that.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a good idea. And I was a little confused on the 2 dates. They don't have to submit both dates, just one or the other?
Yes, so we have 2 dates because sometimes teachers see 2 different groups or the same group. They want to do 2 different projects. So it gives them a chance to enter twice, or it gives teachers who see a class for only 1 semester to still submit and not have to wait until the end of the year. Even though it will be the second semester for most classrooms that do that, you should find out in like March. So it's a little bit less of having to wait so long to hear if you won.
So one teacher could submit multiple student projects. Is that
yes, that's correct.
okay?
An entry just needs to be from one entry per team, if that makes sense. But if you have a classroom of say 24 students and you're finding that there are really 4 topics that your teachers would really like your students would really like to address, that teacher can break their students into 4 teams, and then all 4 teams can submit, because each team would be made up of different students. So the key is just make sure that it's made up of different students for each challenge entry.
Right. And for you that are teachers out there, I worked in the classroom as well. And when we did community service projects, we always tried to relate it to a healthcare related community service project. And that way they were kind of learning as they were doing community service. So it was kind of a win-win situation. This sounds like a perfect way to do that. So anybody else have any questions? I imagine they need to hear a little bit more, and maybe we'll have some more questions in the next time. Okay.
That's great.
Okay,
Thank you.
And I'm going to take you through, I'm Danielle, and I'm going to take you through the website. And then once we go through the website, I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. So if you have any questions after we go through the website, that would be a great time as well. So before I take you to the website, I just want to show you on this slide, when you go to register for Lead4Change, this is what you will see when you go to lead4change.org. You can see this red arrow right here. You click on register, and then that will take you through the registration process. So now I'm going to take you to the website. And once you are registered and you go to lead4change.org, this is what you will see here. So what I'm going to highlight for you today is this red bar at the top. We have 6 tabs that I'd like to go through with you. Dashboard, getting started, leadership survey, lessons, resources, and videos. The first one that I'm going to show you today is leadership survey, because that is the very first thing that you're going to do with your students before you even start teaching the lessons. You will come to this page and you will see a link. So you see share with your students and then pre-survey link. And you will go to copy pre-survey link to clipboard. You will press that button, and then that will enable you to copy the link to send out to your students. And then from there, your students will be able to take the pre-survey. Once you have gone through all the lessons, you'll come back to this page and you will have the students complete their post-survey. They will be able to see their results from their pre-survey and their post-survey so that they can look at the growth that they've made throughout the Lead4Change lessons. So once you have done the pre-survey link, once all the students have completed the pre-survey, I'm going to now go to the lessons tab. So once you're done with the pre-survey, you can start teaching the lessons. As you can see here, we have a 6-lesson track and a 12-lesson track. Each track has the same content, they're just spaced out differently. It's up to you what track you decide to use based on the time you have with your class. So our lessons are available in print or editable PDFs so that you can pick whichever version is most appropriate for your learning environment. Today, I am going to focus on the print full student lesson set. We have student lesson sets and teacher lesson sets. So today I'm going to show you the print student lesson set. The first page that you'll see is a welcome letter that gives you an overview of Lead4Change. The next page is our table of contents. This lists the 6 lessons and titles for each lesson, which give an idea of the theme of the lesson. So lesson 1 is Be Your Best Self. Lesson 2, Build a Team of Avid Learners. Lesson 3, Create a Team Structure and Culture. Lesson 4, You Have to Believe It Can Be Done. Lesson 5, Market and Be the Change. Lesson 6, Share Your Story, The Change is Never Over. Each lesson, as you can see here, is broken down into 3 activities. Activity 1 is intended for students to collaborate together. And then if time runs out, activities 2 and 3 can be completed independently. I would like to briefly show you lessons 1 and 2 just to give you an idea of the layout of each lesson. As I said before, each lesson is broken down into 3 activities. So as you can see here in lesson 1, here is activity 1, which is My Lifeline. I'd like to mention that all the lessons are student driven and can be done with their teams with little to no assistance from you as the educator. The only lesson that we encourage you educators to do with your students is lesson 1, and that is because the students are creating a timeline of their life events, and it can be kind of an emotional lesson. So that would be a good one to do together, but the rest of the lessons can be student led. So as we look through the lessons, you will see the activities written out in detail and also editable PDF that you can actually write directly in the lesson. And I'll show you a little bit further down what I mean. On the right side of the page, you will see that there's more helpful things such as videos embedded into each lesson that the teams can watch or that you can watch with your students, and tips for the students as they're going through the activities. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit more to show you what I meant. You can actually type right in the lessons, so the students can type right into their lessons and then print out from there. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of lesson 1. So I can show you the so what and the now what. At the bottom of each lesson, you're going to see this. And the so what gives a brief summary of what the team accomplished in the lesson. The now what is the next steps for after you complete the lesson. So in lesson 1, the now what is what the students in the team will turn into their teacher. I'm going to very quickly scroll through lesson 2 just to show you that sometimes in the now what, there's also documents that need to be submitted for the challenge. So you'll see here in the now what, you have teams will have things that they need to turn into their teacher, and then also things that they need to turn in for the challenge. So from here, I'm going to go back to our main page, and I'm going to go back up to this red bar at the top. And I'm going to go to our dashboard and show you where students are going to upload things for the challenge. So once your students have created their teams, you will come to this page and you will click on Create Team, and you will create the team for your students. So you will write the name of the team that your students have come up with, click this red button, Create Team, and then you will see what you see on my screen here. I have made up a sample team. So you will see the team name, student input, educator input, review and submit. I'm going to click on student input to show you once you have the teams created, you'll come here and you'll see share with your students. You're going to copy this link and you're going to send it to your students. Once your students open this link, they will have ownership of their challenge entry, and they will see exactly what you see here. And this is where, when in the now what, it says submit to the challenge entry, this is where they will submit all of those documents. Once they submit a document, so let's say they submit issue addressed, they will go down to the very bottom of the page and they will click save. I always recommend that you save often, just so that they don't lose any of the documents that they've uploaded. Once they have submitted, once they have uploaded all of the documents, so this entire page is filled, they will hit submit. Then I'm going to go back to the main dashboard page, and you will see educator input. And as the leader, as the educator, you will fill out this form. Once the student input and the educator input forms are completed, the review and submit button will be in bold, and then you will be able to click on it and review and submit your challenge. The next tab that I'd like to show you is the resources tab. There are many helpful documents on this page, but there are two that I'm going to highlight to you today. The first one is the steps to completion guide. This guide will be really useful to you when you register for the program and are thinking about how to begin the lessons. It really takes you through the process of Lead4Change. The next one that I would like to show you is our virtual learning toolkit. So this page gives a ton of information, including the steps to completion guide that you'll see here as well. So it's the same guide that I just showed you, along with assessment tools for teams, for individual students, and for the challenge entry. We also have a list of virtual project ideas so that teams can brainstorm ideas when they're thinking about how to do a project in a virtual world. The next tab that I'm just going to talk about briefly is the videos tab, which has many videos for you and your students to watch that cover everything from how to get started with Lead4Change, more about the challenge, and lessons and instructional videos. So it's a great resource. And the last tab that I want to show you is our Getting Started tab. This is another great resource that has direct links to the start to finish guide, all of the lessons, the student leadership survey, and much more. So those are the 6 main things that I'd like to go over with you today. There is much more on the website that you can feel free to look at once you've registered. There are some things that you can look at even before you register. Before we leave the website, are there any questions in the chat box or any questions that we can answer?
I don't see any questions, Danielle.
All right.
I think that means y'all are doing a great job explaining it. That's what it sounds like to me.
All right, well then we'll just keep on going.
Okay.
All right.
Somebody said yes, so you are doing a great job.
Oh, great. Okay. So the next few slides are examples of how Lead4Change aligns with the health science standards. So as you can see here, standard 2.3 addresses communication, and within many of the Lead4Change lessons, students complete activities that have them practice and fine-tune their communication skills. For example, students will write professional emails to the organizations they want to work with. They will also write short elevator speeches where they will practice communicating efficiently. Standard 3 addresses working with healthcare delivery systems. In the lesson, students will discuss different causes they are passionate about and then research organizations that help meet those needs, such as the American Cancer Society or March of Dimes. Standard 4 addresses the personal traits of the healthcare professional. Throughout all the Lead4Change lessons, students are growing as people and leaders. They reflect on who they are to identify the strengths they bring to their team. They learn how to work with others and collaborate. The lessons force their views outward to see the needs in their communities. They learn how accountability, enthusiasm, honesty, and other important leadership qualities can make a project successful. Additionally, students learn how to navigate socially sensitive situations in their communities, leading them to be more tactful, empathetic, and encourages them to center others' integrity. Standard 8 addresses healthcare teams and team member participation. The Lead4Change lessons give students the opportunity to work together and build a team community. Students learn what their strengths are as a team member and what attributes they bring to their team. Teams work together to create an action plan for their project, anticipate hurdles, and reflect on their experiences. So the next few slides are pictures of teams in action out in the community implementing their service project. So service learning in action. We also have listed here some virtual project ideas, just like I showed you on the website as well. So here are some teams implementing their service project out in the community.
So to recap, we are a free student leadership program for grades 6 through 12, and the lessons are ready to grab and go on the website. Like we mentioned before, we don't want to add to your overflowing plates. We really want to provide a tool that you can use to assist in what you're doing right now, and everything is ready and free on the website. Our lessons work in classrooms, in virtual settings, and in hybrid models. There's an opportunity for your students to win up to $10,000 for your school or charity. And our lessons encourage student engagement, connection, and collaboration while strengthening leadership skills. So if there aren't any, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we'd like to open it up for more questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here and I am asking more questions, but I'm really interested in. So could you tell us, like, what are some, I mean, I know this picture sort of explained it, but what would be some examples of some of the projects that you may have seen, or, I mean, is that a bad question?
No, that's a wonderful question. That's a great question. So you can define community in different ways. It can be your school's immediate community. It could be your town or your city. It could be the country, or it could be the world. And so it really is just the students figuring out what they're passionate about and them discussing. The first two lessons are really getting them talking. And you know, that lifeline lesson that Danielle highlighted, it gets them thinking about what they care about, which hopefully leads them to picking projects and causes that are near dear to them, because they we want them engaging in something that they feel passionate about. So those conversations start in the first few lessons, and then we hopefully that hopefully guides them to a project that they're passionate about. So for some examples for projects, one school saw a need. Students were going home on Friday. They were receiving meals throughout the day at school, but when they went home on Friday, there wasn't enough food at their home to get them through the weekend. So they created a school pantry where they asked the community to help stock it. And then if they had won the grant money, they would have used the money to continue stocking their pantry. Another school created a closet, almost like Plato's closet, but within their school, and they made it like a little store with no money involved. It was completely free for the students who went in to look for clothes, but they made it really nice. So if you were a student who didn't have enough clothes, you could go in there and shop, and it was really nice. They had a little dressing room. So that was a way that they identified and met an immediate need. Other students work with, we see a lot of animal projects where the local anti-cruelty society or the Humane Society is looking for supplies. So they go out and they get supplies from the community, they donate it, and then with hopes that they get the money and then they give it to the shelter to continue the work. So the idea is if they get the grant money, that it goes to further their work. I will mention also that the grant money, like we said, can stay in-house because the students are doing their work in their school often. We also saw a project that was connected to a project to empower girls in education through the United Nations. And so that's an example of a global project. So those are some examples of projects that we have seen. I also will mention that, especially in a virtual environment and where we are encouraged to physically distance, socially distance, what we've seen come out of not only quarantine times, but the projects have given high schoolers a chance to have a voice. And I will mention that after the Parkland shooting happened, there was a school in Miami who was actually almost completely finished with their Lead4Change project. And then after that happened, they pivoted, completely started a new project and decided that they wanted to address awareness around mental health. And so they started a project where in all of the bathroom stalls in their district is a plaque that's called No Stalling. And it just goes through different mental health issues and phone numbers that they could call. Because when do students have a chance to be by themselves and really think? It's in the bathroom and it's right there in front of you and they could read it, they could see the numbers, it was private and yet there was the information. So it is a way for students to respond to what is happening right now in the world. It gives them voices and it shows, it can show what they care about. I did see one of the questions about the winners in of the grant money. And I will also say that we have a $10,000 grant prize. And then we have also $3,500 prizes as well. So we have, there's 35 chances each entry to win grant money.
And they all get the certificate too, right?
That's correct. As long as they submit, they are getting the certificates of completion and the honor cords as well.
Okay, we had another question about parental permission slips. Are those available on the website?
That's a great question. We actually just default to whatever the school has in place, whatever videos or pictures that are submitted through the challenge. In submission, that gives us the right to use them, but because schools are all very different, we say, please check with your school and use your school's waiver at the beginning of the year that almost everybody fills out. Use that for permission for the students to be photographed.
Okay, thank you. That's good for everybody to know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
We also had a question from Shelley about, she said, I was thinking how many of the lessons you noted would be a wonderful tool for HOSA local chapter officer teams. Could you share some examples of how Lead4Change was implemented specifically in HOSA chapters?
That's a great question. HOSA specific, to be honest, I can't specifically say, not because I'm not allowed, I just don't remember specific HOSA ones because we've read so many. But I am happy to go back and look and generate some ideas if that would be helpful. At the end, you'll see my email address if you'd like to just shoot me an email. It does not require registration or anything. You could just email me and I'm happy to, Danielle and I can get back to you with some suggestions.
Okay, that'd be great. And you'll add that at the end, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shelley also said, maybe I didn't read it all. Also, if health science programs or HOSA chapters work on community service projects, I bet their hours earned could be used for the Barbara James Service Award hours with HOSA. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but it's a big award that they can earn, by doing community service. So that's what I was saying. I think it's such a good complement to our programs because they can use those great projects that they're working on and really devote a lot of time to them and then use them in HOSA as well as, for the benefit of the people they're assisting as well. So somebody asked, where does the money come from for the prizes?
That's another great question. I will say not only the prizes, but teachers are often skeptical, like, what's the catch? What do I have to turn in? What do you need from me? Nothing. I mean, you can register and have access to everything and never even enter the challenge. if that's what you choose. David Novak, the former CEO of Yum Brands and one of the co-founders of Lift Alive Foundation, fully funds Lead4Change because he truly believes in the leadership skills. His experience in the workforce has brought him to a place where he really wants middle schoolers and high schoolers to have the chance to learn leadership. And he believes it's best taught through service. And so he believes in it so much that he funds all of this, including the prizes.
Wow, that's pretty impressive there. He has that same devotion that it sounds like y'all do. So
yeah.
Someone wanted to know if you could talk in a little bit more detail about some of the actual virtual community service projects that you have available currently. Mm-hmm. I think that's on everybody's mind, the virtual part, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Danielle has our list of ideas, which you can find on our website. It's a 2-page list of ideas. This is not exhaustive by any means. They are just some that we have brought together for a tool for educators to use who are trying to come up with ideas. But they do go by topic. So if you, Danielle, maybe can just spend a few seconds on each section so that everybody watching can see. Again, this is also on our website. So if you register, this is under resources. But maybe I could take a step back and address also the question of how does this work in a virtual setting? We get a lot of questions. I know Danielle and I are on the outreach team, so we help educators navigate this. And so what we see a lot of teachers doing that are successful is they use our lessons. We have a set of lessons that are ready to go and upload into Google Classroom. And what that allows them to do is they Zoom for the first activity as a class. And then they do breakout rooms, and the breakout rooms consist of each team that the students have been broken into. And then they can collaborate by using Google Classroom, or for example, a Canvas collaboration can be created where students are working on their editable PDFs like Danielle mentioned. So what this allows them to do is they can be working together. You can have a team leader that fills in one that keeps track of everything being discussed that can be used for the challenge entry. But then also each student is working on their own editable PDF within Google Classroom, so they can send their work to you if you are looking to assess their work. And we do have assessment tools for that. Danielle showed this individual one, the team one, and the challenge entry assessment tool as well. And so that I hope that kind of explains how this might work in a virtual setting. But, you know, like I mentioned, awareness campaigns are a really great one for physically distancing. We saw schools get really creative with food delivery, where instead of delivering them out to the community, they worked with local organizations to understand, okay, how do we make this process safe? And then they set up a food, not quite a market, but basically they had everything in their parking lot. And then they had cones where they had a drive-up system where cars could come up, get their food, almost like a Target pickup, where they could have their food put in their trunk with, you know, everybody's masked and gloved, everyone's distance, but they were still able to get the food out in their communities. So that was another way that, you know, they collaborated virtually within their virtual classroom, and then they were able to apply it in their school parking lot, but still stay physically distanced. Some other ones, we saw some middle school and high schoolers working with elementary students so that they could record stories, record songs, and then the teachers, the elementary students, would make them available for their students. High school students pairing with elementary teachers who are looking for readers in real time, looking for tutors in real time. And of course, the teacher is there facilitating that, you know, because it needs to be monitored, but the teacher is there facilitating that, and yet the kids are the ones doing the project.
Okay, do we have any other questions out there? This sounds really good. I need to really go in a little bit more in depth and try to read everything. It's like y'all have everything. it's really impressive. I like the idea of the assessment tool, and that way you can incorporate it into your class. And and that's something teachers, because I feel like teachers sometimes think, wow, we already have so much to do, how can we do anything else? But it looks like you're making it really easy for them and applicable to our health science standards. And I think you're actually pulling it all together for them. So are there any other questions out there? Some of you may have to go in and look, and you probably will think of some questions, afterwards when you have a chance to take it all in. But are there any other right now? I added the certificate thing again. Here's the comment. Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful program. I appreciate how user-friendly the program appears to be, as well as the teaching by doing leadership principles.
Great, thank you. I will mention that the program is really handy in like an advisory time if you're looking how to fill that. A lot of feedback that we got in the spring, after everyone had to pivot to virtual, this was often the time that kept students most engaged, and that teachers actually had them showing up to their virtual classes. So that was encouraging that they were actually getting a lot out of collaborating with each other. And the last thing I will mention is that this is a program that students should be working on in teams, and a team for us is 3 students working together between grades 6 through 12. They can of course be way more than 3 students per team, but that's the minimum number per team, and that makes them eligible to enter our challenge. But more than that, they're just going to get the most out of it if they are able to work with other students.
Here's a question. I have some students in person and some that are totally remote. Will it work with that group where you have the combination of in person and virtual?
Absolutely. Yep. If I was thinking about that in my classroom, I could decide, do I want to have all the virtual students grouped together and all the in-person groups to get grouped together? But I think I would also to see if it would be worth, if they're in the same class, partnering them up. So having a few at home and a few in the classroom working together and just coordinating the times for your Zoom. But the short answer is yes, it can definitely work with those students, either working as their own individual unique classrooms or joining them together.
And I think that's good to give them a different little challenge to figure out how to make it work, with some of them being in person and some not. And I think they can rise to that challenge. So
absolutely. And I did say that it's kind of my last thing, but I will also mention this. A question that we get often, especially in this virtual environment, is do students need to register? They do not. They are able to gain access to all the resources, but if you are someone who's considering the challenge, you as the educator will set up their teams that Danielle mentioned and send them the link so that they can collaborate together. So that takes the need for students to register out of the equation. So you can manage all of your teams on one page instead of having all these students logging in and having no access. So the short answer is no, students do not need to register.
Okay. Well, look, y'all have done a wonderful job. You've got lots of great comments on the chat box, and we'll send you that so you can see that as well. Everybody pretty much stayed on till the very end, and you often don't see that. So I think that's a good sign too, that everybody really enjoyed it, and you just provided a lot of valuable information. We appreciate you collaborating with the consortium. Thanks to Laura and Shelley for being on board as well. I think you've got some information up there about how they can get in touch with y'all if they would like to do that.
Yes.
And so both of your emails are there. And are there any questions at all before we close everything out?
No. Thank you so much for your time today.
I'm sorry, Danielle, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying thank you for your time today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I just wanted to say that it would be all the lesson, the PowerPoint, everything would be posted. So it'll be a few days, but it'll be posted out on the webinars site. And so if you obviously don't have it today, you will soon.
Yes.
Yeah, and so anybody that you know that you think would benefit from watching it, they will be able to, like Laura said, it takes a few days before the webinars are posted, but you know, they could certainly log into our website and be able to watch that as well. So I think a lot of people would benefit from doing that. I mean, we know everybody can't get on, they have obligations and all, but anyway, we thank you ladies so much. It was fabulous, and everybody be safe out there, and we enjoyed being together today. Thanks so
Yes.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Guys.
Have a great night.
You too.